and welcome to Unlock Your Blocks. My name is Elyssa Smith, and I'm excited to talk to you today about your negative self-talk. Girl, why are you so hard on yourself? Can we just discuss this for one episode? We are so hard on ourselves, and negative self-talk is the commonality among high-achieving women. We all talk mean to ourselves, okay? So this episode is all about figuring out why you're talking to yourself the way that you would never ever talk to somebody else. And I'm gonna reveal the sneaky origins of your negative self-talk and help you get it cleared away, help you release it, help your system feel safe without it. And I'm first gonna start talking about what actually it looks like in your life. So how do you tell when negative self-talk is happening? Now, I know that you're probably thinking, I already know this because I'm hard on myself in my head, and that is the definition of negative self-talk, which is true. And it can look like a bunch of other different things. It kind of marauds around as other self-sabotagers, okay? But negative self-talk is usually at the core of these things. So obviously we know that we don't accept mistakes. When we are perfectionistic, high-achieving people pleasers, we don't accept our own mistakes. We don't accept that being imperfect is an option. We don't accept that being imperfect is an option. What we end up doing is just living by these really high standards that we would never really hold anyone else to. Every single high achieving woman that I've ever worked with, if I ask her, would you hold someone else to those same standards? She says no. Although we do tend to hold people to pretty high standards. And sometimes it's darn near impossible for those people to meet those standards. So if you have a problem with perfectionism, then it's going to be really hard for you to talk nice to yourself when you make a mistake. So there's no tolerance for mistakes, which is problem number one. Problem number two, second guessing, self-doubt. We second guess ourselves worse than the average sort of underachiever. So problem number two is second guessing ourselves, self-doubt in general. Overachieving women second guess themselves a ton more and doubt themselves a ton more than women who are not overachievers, that are just trying to kind of get by. And the reason that we do that is because this standard that we hold ourselves to as overachievers, impossible as it may be, is what we're going for. And we have doubts because we know that deep down, authentically, we know that we're imperfect. Authentically, we know that we're going to make mistakes. So we're constantly second guessing our judgment. And also you may have some things that came from childhood that cause you to second guess yourself as far as like not really being able to trust your gut. So then the negative self-talk spiral pops in every time you're trying to make a choice, or every time you spill a cup of milk, not crying over the proverbial spilled milk becomes a real issue for us. So another couple of things that you want to watch for, that this negative self-talk, this is what it looks like on the outside. Depression, which is clinically they call it like anger turned inward. When you're depressed, it's because you're mad at yourself for not being enough. And then we also have another thing that negative self-talk is the root cause of, which is a shame spiral. If you have ever experienced a shame spiral, it feels yuck. You could feel it in your body. It shuts down your mind. It keeps you in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. It keeps you in that survival mode place. And it's really hard to get out of it on your own. So these are all things that are necessary companions of negative self-talk. You will almost always have experienced some or all of those other things when you're experiencing negative self-talk. If you speak really unkindly to yourself, it's going to do all kinds of stuff to slow you down too. So here are the problems with negative self-talk. Now, I've had some women say, well, I'm a perfectionist because it holds me to a high standard, and that's why I have been such a high achiever. I'm going to address that flawed thinking in just a second. But the problem with keeping yourself at this standard is that it keeps you in survival mode, in which you actually can't be at your best. So if you also are staying in this negative self-talk mode, trying to keep yourself perfect and not let anyone know anything else about you, is that you're not living from your authentic true self. A person who is convinced that she has to be perfect is going to want to show the world that front. She's going to want to show, and this was me for so long in my life, many decades, I spent just feeling like I was lying all the time, covering up mistakes, not letting anyone know that I was flawed, because I thought there was this expectation that this is how I should be. And so what I saw in the mirror versus what I needed to put out there were two different things. So being sort of deceptive with how you present yourself to the world is a burden on our shoulders emotionally. And you have to be really careful, because eventually your body and your heart are going to start noticing that discrepancy and not being able to cope with it. We also find that for women who are dealing with a lot of negative self-talk is that fear of failure that they have, because we are afraid to do something less than perfectly. So we have a fear of failure. It means that we don't end up doing the things that we're actually meant to do. So those are the problems with if you're talking to yourself real mean like you would never do to one of your closest friends, this is gonna stop you from actually contributing what we all need from you in society. Now, keeping you in survival mode, let's get a deeper dive into this. So this negative self-talk will keep you in survival mode because essentially it started off as a way to protect yourself. It's a survival response to be mean to yourself in your head. And when you're mean to yourself in your head, if that's the way that you're thinking that you need to operate in order to please other people, essentially what happens is your brain thinks that every threat that it sees that somebody's going to be displeased with you or that you're going to mess up and screw up the whole thing and you're going to ruin people's lives or, whatever it is, or be abandoned entirely and end up homeless on the street because you made a mistake. When your brain is thinking that, it thinks, okay, so just be better. Do more, work harder. And it thinks that's the solution, which when we're little, when we don't have any other way to be except to think that we're the problem and that's why we're not getting the love we need or that's why things are feeling bad in our lives is we're the problem. That's what your brain does just to help you survive. You can always be working harder, doing better and being more as a little kid to try and make everyone else happy. And that way your needs will get met a little easier. So when you're working harder, being better and doing more to get your needs met, it's really easy to get into the if I'm the hardest one on myself, then nobody else's painful words are going to hurt me. So maybe you even had outside words, outside circumstances, bullying, maybe there was some abuse going on somewhere where people were actually reinforcing the idea that you were less than. I people pleased and tried to bully my own self right into an abusive relationship to be with someone who agreed that I was the problem. This is a real issue that women who are high achievers have in our relationships. We have this in our businesses, in our hiring processes. If we have a business, if you're trying to work your way up the corporate ladder, it poses issues there too. And we keep thinking that if we're mean to ourselves, then we will get more done and we will be able to work harder, be better, and do more. And if you got outside messages that also reinforce this, you're going to be in that constant shame spiral because the root of negative self-talk is shame. Here's a truth that I want you to take away from today's episode. Shame never motivated anyone to make sustainable, lasting change. Shame shoves stuff down like with a baseball bat, just beats it down. But someday that mess is going to pop back up and we have nervous breakdowns. We have depression episodes. We have anxiety, panic attacks. We have chronic illnesses. We have all these different things going on because there's such an unsafe situation happening inside between our ears. And if I think that I will have to just be harder on me so that everyone else will like me more and I'm going to change my behavior by motivating myself with a stick of shame, then it's going to cause all kinds of problems within your body and within your emotions and within your mental processes. And you will stay in that survival mode and never reach that highest potential. Because when we're in survival mode, we don't have access to our highest potential. So here's the solution. I want to walk you through a few steps to help you walk yourself out of negative self-talk, okay? So the first thing is you have to notice when it's happening. Now, you might not always notice at the moment. When you're new at this, when I first started trying to work on this in myself and doing the inner healing that it took and the trauma work that it took, I didn't catch it when it was actually happening most of the time. But I could catch it in hindsight. Oh, there, I remember. That felt real bad. And so you get faster and faster at noticing it while it's happening. And what you want to look for, by the way, is body sensations that go with it. How do you know that you were speaking negatively to yourself? Could you remember some of those thoughts? Could you remember how your body felt when it started happening? And then you go back in and you look at what are the roots of this? Where did I learn to talk negative to myself? Did I see my parents doing it? Did someone else actually actively talk bad to me? Did I have bullies that were present in my life? And once you can identify the root, it's much, much easier to operate beyond that. And then you start to calm yourself in the moment. You can use the 3S framework, take 3 big deep breaths for your safety, make a cup of tea for your self-nurturing, and then text a bestie who loves you. And your brain will start to calm down in that moment after you've noticed that it's happening. And then practice noticing. This is what I found to be so mind-blowing. You can actually get so good at noticing this that you can catch the decision point. Right now, it might not be a decision for you to be negative in your head or to not be negative in your head. It is actually a decision point in there. The second that it starts to come on, you can actually decide, but you have to get really good at noticing this. But I remember the first time I ever noticed, like, I'm about to go into the shame spiral on myself. And I was like, let me take a deep breath instead. And I actually just didn't have to waste energy being mean to myself in that moment. It was an aha moment for all aha moments. It was brilliant. And I want that for you if you haven't had it yet. So when you are working through these steps and you're trying to notice it all, you want to notice too, if the roots are escaping you, if you can't figure it out, there might be some trauma in there. There might be some sneaky hidden places that this negative self-talk started for you. So I want to just invite you to book a free 15-minute Unlock Your Blocks focus call with me, and I can help you actually untangle where this came from so that you can set up your next steps to start releasing it and being able to calm your body in the moment. So I hope this was helpful for you today. I'm sending you the biggest hug, and join me next time for another juicy sesh about how to calm your survival system and live in the moment and be at your absolute best, most blissful existence.